Writing 394. This is Professor Anderson with part two, the plagiarism question in our discussions. And this is such a juicy topic. I just want to go quickly and show you where I'm pulling this from. Whoops, I want to see the assignment. So if you go up here and you'll see the reading, the discussion question, you'll see a hyperlink to this article. I'm sorry, this is in my edit mode. I'm not sure why or how I did that. So if you pull up this article, I want to share with you three very important things about plagiarism and how it's tricky. So, you can't lift someone else's work, that's somebody else's ideas. You must cite or at least give them credit for coming up with their idea. However, this article shares three very key elements of when plagiarism is not really plagiarism, or where is that line in the sand. And the first one is really talking about, so for you to summarize something or to paraphrase, at what point does the paraphrase become a unique statement or a unique summation of the ideas? That is very difficult to discern. So while you might need to state or, somehow refer to, Smith and Jones, and their separate articles talk about A and B, and a synthesis of these two ideas results in C. So did you come up with C? Yes, a little bit, because you're synthesizing two different research pieces of, bodies of information. So again, it makes this idea of plagiarism difficult. Now, of course, you don't want to just lift and copy somebody else's work. You are expected to synthesize, but how and where does the paraphrasing of individual work and become a synthesis of unique work? That is the question that we grapple with very frequently. And then there's this concept of institutional plagiarism, where your reports are templated. If you are serving in the military or in law enforcement, this is standard operating procedure every day. And many of you are in the medical field, totally standard operation. And you have to think about it like this. Institutional plagiarism in those instances is necessary because you have multiple different parties viewing information that needs to be templated and situated in the same place. If I had 5 doctors referencing one patient's surgical procedure and wanted to see what was done, and all 5 of them, and it was a 20-page report, they had to read the whole 20 pages. I think you're really talking about the next patient's health is in jeopardy because all 5 of those doctors were just, bottlenecked reading one paper. So the idea of templating information, of putting it in the same places, using the same type of phrases to indicate the same thing, is almost synonymous with rubric. So we use rubrics in education to score and grade. Because I'm using the same rubric as others, does that mean I'm plagiarizing? Does that mean the department's plagiarizing? So, and then this other idea about plagiarizing, and this really talks about paraphrasing correctly, like how to make sure that what it is that you're referencing, the work and body that you're referencing, how is it unique? How does it become unique? And then if we're talking about a global world of and bodies of knowledge. So I graduated from graduate school back in the 80s. I just dated myself in a huge way. We did not have the internet. We did not have access to it. I had a huge library that I had to go through stacks and stacks of textbooks. So obviously my ability to access all the information on any given topic was limited to the amount of books I could carry and the time frame. I couldn't read all of it because I had to first find the textbook, open the page. Here it's at my fingertips. I can quickly access by keywords and key phrases. That ability was not around 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So fast forward to today, not only do you have greater access, each one of those bodies of information have been then, subsequently synthesized. So you're reading paraphrased synthesis of an original work. How do you get to the bottom of it? How do you get to where the original source comes from? And I think that, muddies the waters a little bit. It makes it more difficult for us to understand where the information originally came from. And then I'll give you the last example, and this, I don't think it's covered in here. Yes, no, it's not really covered in here. So these screencasts that I write, so I'm working for UMUC. Even though it's my thought, my bent, my twist, my little idiosyncrasies on how these different tenets that are taught in this class, how they might apply to you, and little tidbits of help that I might be giving you that you're not going to get in another class because that professor is going to give you maybe a different bent, a little different way to integrate these pieces of information. These screencasts, they're no longer my property. This intellectual property now belongs to UMUC. It's posted on UMUC website. It's posted inside of a course. It might even be the individual feedback that I give to you on your paper is no longer my property. And technically, it's not even any longer your property because I'm using this vehicle of UMUC as a conduit. So, all of that said, how in the world can we ever even avoid plagiarism? And I'm just pulling up this very first one. I'm going to stop the screencast now because I already blabbed enough. And then you can just take a look at your individual responses. You're right. In some instances, it can make a job easier. Here it goes. I see the practices throughout, and I'm guilty of the same. You don't even really know when or how you're technically plagiarizing. So fortunately, these issues are being looked at in greater legal senses because had this happened 40 years ago, people would not be given their master's degree, their doctorate, because the information would have been parsed and not cited correctly, even a template. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, yeah, this is such a tricky topic. Most importantly for you is make certain that you cite your sources. And when you synthesize or when you paraphrase, even in those situations, make certain that you include the reference at least in your on your reference page, because that will help to make certain that you're giving credit to the original source. So I hope that was helpful. It is such an interesting topic. I think this is worth a whole week in and of itself. How how plagiarism affects professional writing. It's a juicy topic.